Well, good morning, friends, and welcome to my channel. I am Crystal, and this is Homemaking on the Homestead. And today, I am doing a Q&A. You ask questions, and I'm going to answer them. I get a lot of questions in my comment section over time, but I never usually kind of pull them together unless it's on one specific topic, like intermittent fasting or a laundry detergent or something like that. And then I will usually make a follow-up video on those types of things. On last week's video, I asked you guys if you had any questions and to just drop them in the comments, email me or whatever, and you guys did. And I thought, okay, that would be kind of fun. I will just do a quick video today on the questions that you guys asked me. I went ahead then and kind of scrolled through my videos and looked at a few comments from, a little times past. So I have a few of those as well. I'm not sure whether I'll have time to get to all of those or not. We'll see. We'll just see how this goes. So, all right, let's get started. Vintage Believer 5023 said, when did you know you wanted to be a mother? That is a really great question. It's kind of funny. When I was a little girl, what I really like 4 or 5 years old, what I really wanted to be at that time was a teacher. And I loved all my dolls, and I loved everything about, babies and my mom's friends that would come by with babies and things. I was the youngest child, so I never got to have younger siblings, but and I loved all those things as I became a preteen, teenager area. I started babysitting for the neighbors around me. Really enjoyed that. There was such a push, in school that as I went into high school for careers, that motherhood just wasn't even actually part of my thinking process at that point. I had a job as a teenager in a daycare center. Again, totally loved that job. So I had a love for children, and so I think it was kind of probably just a natural that it overflowed into motherhood. I ended up with being pregnant in my last year of high school. So motherhood wasn't really a decision that I consciously made and said, yes, it's time, time for kids. And so it was kind of just part of this flow of life that happened at that time. And I know that after I had my baby, my husband and I were, like, well, this isn't so bad, I mean, let's have another one, so 3 years later we had another one. And I think it wasn't until I was pregnant with my third that I really, because during that time I had jobs I worked at a nursing home, and I had, other things going on. And I don't think it was really until I was pregnant with my third that I decided, I really love this. I love being a mother. I love taking care of my children. And my husband, he had his job, he had finally finished school, he was working, and so he was more than happy to have me at home. He really enjoyed that. He enjoyed knowing his children were being cared for by their mama every day. And and I think that's when my real love for motherhood began, is probably at that point. Vintage Believer also asked me, what are your hobbies? And I've had a lot of hobbies over the years, but all of my hobbies always seem to be centered on things that benefited my family. I taught myself to sew. When I was pregnant with my first son, I got a used sewing machine for $25 and made myself a bunch of little maternity. I was pregnant in the summer. Maternity sundresses and some shorts and some t-shirts, that I could, not t-shirts, but tank top things that I could wear. And I just fell in love with sewing at that point. And over the years, I sewed clothes for my children, for myself. I did, quilting, I made curtains, I did all kinds of sewing. So that was a big hobby for me. And I still love sewing today. I don't do as much of it as I used to, but I still love that today as a hobby. Other hobbies that I picked up, things that I enjoyed doing, was like gardening. When I lived in the city, I had a small little garden, and my first garden was just a really small little plot in my backyard, and that was so much fun. And I think it became a hobby and eventually grew into, you know, having massive gardens when I lived out here in the country. I also was really very interested in medicinal medicines, herbal medicines, and so I did a lot of studying, made lots of tinctures, and did a lot to, I used those on my kids over the years. And so like I say, all my hobbies always seem to be something that benefited, you know, my family. Today I like to crochet. I always wanted to learn to knit. I've picked it up a few times, but it's so much easier for me to crochet because I learned at a young age. And even that, I love to do things like make baby blankets for other people or my own grandchildren, hats and, you know, mittens and stuff like that. I enjoy doing that. And today, also soap making. I make my own soap, and I used to have a business online and sell my soap. I don't do that anymore, but I still enjoy making it for our own use. Okay, and again, she asked me, do you have a ritual at night to slow down before bed? I think basically my only ritual at night is to make sure that my kitchen's been cleaned up, you know, and everything is neat and tidy and in order when I wake up in the morning. I like that. And I set up the coffee for the next morning as well. And then basically I enjoy reading at night. I enjoy occasionally I'll watch maybe a couple YouTube channels that I like. I have a couple games on my phone that I like to play. Just simple stuff like that help me unwind. And I enjoy a cup of tea at night, like a cup of chamomile tea. That is very relaxing and, you know, is good for slowing down and kind of moving into the bedtime routine. And another one from her, she said, how do you be the older woman encouraging the younger? I wonder often how to exactly do it with my daughters and daughter-in-laws when they live so far away. That's a great question. How do you do that as an older woman? I always have felt like the best thing is example, you know, leading by example. Being the older woman, teaching them to, you know, love their husbands, love their children, the Titus 2:5 calling. Example is going to always be our number one thing to do. Also, be a willing and listening ear when they need it. Don't be quick to give advice when it's not asked for. You know, you don't want to be the one that knows it all and then they don't want to come to you. But when they have a question, you know, be willing to be there and always have your encouragement to them be positive. I think text messages are great. You know, maybe letters in the mail. You know, anything that maybe little gifts sent to them at times, make something for them. When you see something that you think that they might enjoy, then, you know, that's always a good way to be encouraging. Also, just to, when I say the text messages too, sometimes, you know, it's always just, hey, I wanted you to know I was thinking of you today. You know, send them a scripture verse, send them something that will interest them. My daughters all love to cook, so for me, communication is key to being encouraging, and so we always are exchanging recipes. Over the years, we would even have private Facebook groups where we would share recipes and talk about what we thought about a recipe, or, you know, post a recipe and say, hey, what do you guys think of this? Or we had this last night. Those are fun ways. Prayer groups, we've done that too. My daughters and I have done Bible studies together. So we will follow either an online Bible study or a book or something like that. And then we each will, you know, we'll say like, okay, this week we're going to do chapter 1. And then we each write in there what we thought of the chapter, any thoughts we might have, and just try to keep the communication going and focus on things that are encouraging and will build up not only our homes, but you know, our spiritual life as well. Unadorned in Indiana said, I would like to ask about how you incorporate what you read in the Bible into everyday life as a homemaker and YouTube star. Ha ha ha. Okay, that made me laugh. Not hardly, but especially Jesus' teaching in the gospel. Okay, well, this is a great question. I think when I accepted Jesus into my life and I let him do all that transforming work in my heart, it cannot help but spill over into the rest of our lives. You know, all the other things that we do in life are going to have a benefit from that. I think as a homemaker, I am more patient. You know, I'm more kind. I'm concerned about the things that make my husband happy. I am concerned about the things that would be a benefit to my family. You know, my whole focus became not me-centered, but them-centered. And that, you know, that spreads out into just being a more gracious person, a more kind person, you know, a more loving person. But it's a work, you know, it doesn't happen overnight, and it is a work in progress for all of us. I was not saved until I was 19, and I already had one son, one child, and you know, I had a lot of things that I brought into my marriage, my early life, that were just that needed work. You know, there was definitely a refining process that needed to happen, and it is still happening today as I grow and walk forward in my relationship with the Lord, and that spills over into my homemaking. So, you know, it is important for me to make a nice home. I want my husband to feel like it is a comfortable place to be. I want it to be clean. I want it, you know. So again, it's not me focused, but it is other people focused. Okay, the next question comes from Mama Mia 6129, and she says, I'd love to hear your take on hospitality. How did you show hospitality while you were raising your children and had a house full of little ones? Tips, tricks, were there ways that you... Oh, that's the next question. Okay, so, you know, when my kids were young, we would invite other couples to our home that also had families. I think it's harder to invite, if you have a house full of kids and you invite a couple, it's really hard to give that couple sometimes your undivided attention. But when you all have kids, you know, it's all, they know what to expect, you know. So we did that a lot. When we moved to the country, my husband would invite people he would meet at work, and he would invite them over. We had people we met at church that we would invite over. And you just do that with your children. And like I said, if you invite people that have small families, it's great because you have something in common, and you have a way to be understanding and gracious when the kids are loud or when things seem crazy. The other thing that I would highly recommend when it comes to having people over to your house is to do everything in advance. Make a meal that can just simply be put in the oven to keep warm. Make your salad, make your dessert, you know, do everything in the morning and have that completely done. Because you don't want to spend your time that you're trying to, you know, be hospitable to others in the kitchen just doing all the cooking and doing all the prepping. You really want to be focused on the people that you invite over. Other ways that I do that I showed hospitality over the years is invite other women over to my house. And we would do, I mentioned this in the previous video, we would do book studies together. And again, if we all have children, now at that point I had children that were old enough to kind of manage the younger children. But you know, if you did something like that and you all have little children, you know, you could look into hiring maybe a young girl or something like that that could manage the kids while you spend an hour in your book study. Or, you know, homeschool kids would love to do that. So there are ways to show hospitality even when you have young children. And she also asked, what were the ways you taught them, your children, to be hospitable? I always encourage my children to invite friends over, you know, after church on Sunday, you want to come home with me, that type of thing. I encouraged sleepovers. I encouraged any time that they were invited to go to someone's house for an afternoon, I would try to make that happen for them. But I tried to always encourage them to invite people over so that it was something that was natural. It wasn't something that was strange to them, you know. Again, I think you teach by example. They see you doing it, you encourage them to do it, and it grows up as a habit for them. And she mentioned, I would love to learn to be more hospitable, but I get nervous since I have toddlers and they get a little wild when company is over. that's little children, you know. I mean, and when you bring your friends over that also have little children, their little children are going to be behaving the same way. And there's a little bit of rowdiness that can happen, and then you can set parameters and, you know, talk about quiet voices and have things maybe for the children to do, so that when they do come over, maybe you've got some coloring or a simple little some toys that are new and different for, you know, that are your kids' things, that can be brought out at that point and get them actively involved in something so that you have a chance to be able to visit too. Being able to meet up with friends, like at a park or things like that, is also a great way to, you know, you're still extending hospitality. It may not be in your home, but you are able to do something while your children are busy doing something as well. All right, you guys, as I am editing this video, I realized this has gotten long enough. So I am going to save some of my older questions for another day for a possible part 2 Q&A. It'll be a while before I post that. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you so much to those of you that left questions. I really appreciated that. And also, if anybody else has questions, please put them in the comment box or send them to me in my email. My email is in the description box, so I would love that, and I'll just keep collecting them until I'm ready to do another one. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please don't forget to, you know, give me a like. It really helps my YouTube channel out. And I hope you all have just an amazing day today and a blessed week ahead. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.